Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, everybody. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. How you doing? You want me to do a mic check? Yes, you can hear me. I think that is working. That's what the kids say, something that should have been done prior to the start of the show. But hey, we just rock and roll here on the show. And sometimes we do things live, and that means a little messy. But hey, what the hell? It's real. I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Thanks for joining me today, as you do most days, hopefully, Monday through Friday on the Fantasy Sports Daily Show. You can find that at FantasyGuru.com. Click the Elite Plus tab at the top. You can type in Fantasy Sports Daily into your local podcast network, including YouTube Music. We're on there. We've always been saying Google, it's gone away. It's now YouTube Music. We're on there as well. You can also watch us live on YouTube at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. On Facebook at facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. If you're on either Facebook or YouTube, you can watch live. The others are obviously a little bit tape delayed because we have to get it all posted and everything over there. But we're live on Facebook and on the Elite Plus network on YouTube. You can ask questions and comments there, and I address those at the end of the show. You can also follow us on Twitter X at Fantasy Guru Site. We're live there, but you can't ask questions there. Hopefully, you'll tell a friend, spread the word. This is something that's for all of you. Let's be honest, it's a gateway drug. We're hoping you like what you see here, and you go subscribe to the product over at FantasyGuru.com. But the bottom line is we're here to have some fun, about an hour every morning. We try to do just that. Most of the time we're talking baseball right now. We're starting to transition into football as well. I've made the promise to the audience, to all of you, that we're not going to bail on baseball. We won't. We'll continue to cover baseball throughout the regular season here on the show. On Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, about halfway through the show at about 12:30 Eastern Time, 9:30 Pacific, we talk football. Wednesdays are the domain of Armando Marsal. Thursdays are Tyler Beaker. Fridays are Russell Clay. So we'll have each of those three guys coming up to talk some football the next 3 days. Scott Fishbowl in the draft. I'm sure a lot of you are doing it too. I might talk about it from time to time, but I know there's a lot of Scott Fishbowl coverage everywhere. So I'm going to hold back on that for now. I did take Josh Allen in the first round and Jonathan Taylor in the second round, for those people wondering. Speaking of football, we've got the product available over at FantasyGuru.com right now. I was in there this morning answering questions in the chat room, and I also answer them obviously in the baseball side of things, continuing that moving forward. The football product is live and available, and I talk about it every day. And it's everyone says the following: it's a great product, go out and get it. I'm saying it, I've been saying it, but I really mean it. And I think if you stack up what we do against the other competitors that we have, I think you'll come away pretty pleased. I think the price point is good. The early bird pricing is still available. You don't need a promo code or anything like that. It's already part of the package. Just sign up. You're good to go. Remember, the package covers you throughout the entirety of the regular season. That will include all the rankings each week. That'll include access to ask questions in Discord all week long, trade questions, waiver wire questions, roster stardom, sit-em questions. The package includes all of that. It includes all the podcasts that we do for the preseason. It includes the live stream that's every Tuesday with Tyler, Russell, Armando. Fantasy Bosco jumps in, Rich Mileto, kind of a rotating crew there, but that's every Tuesday. We've got IDP, a section of IDP. We've got a section for Dynasty. We've got a section for rookies. We've got rankings, as I talk about all the time, PPR, non-PPR, Dynasty, rookie, IDP, rankings everywhere. Best ball rankings. We've got a whole best ball section done by Tyler Beaker. So check that out over at FantasyGuru.com. Click the subscribe tab in the top right. And as we're talking about best ball, don't forget we got the Drafters Best Ball deal. We've been talking about it here. It's a great deal, folks. Get signed up. If you haven't already signed up, use the promo code ELITE. That promo code ELITE, if you type it in at drafters.com, promo code ELITE will get you a 100% match, which is pretty damn good. You don't see too many places doing that anymore. Even better from Drafters, if you're a returning customer for Drafters, if you've already signed up, you've already had fun over there doing best ball, sign up now and use the promo code ELITE10. You use that code, you get a 10% match, which is pretty unique. And I said this previously, and I want to hit on it every time that we talk about it, because it's not common that, once these sites have you, they've got you, and they don't really do much unless you're a whale, right? They're giving you a 10% match at drafters.com with that promo code. So use the promo code ELITE if you're a new customer at Drafters. If you're an existing customer, use ELITE10 and get access to the millions of dollars and literally millions of dollars in prizes they have available for their contest there this season. All right, what are we talking about this day? Let me switch the sides. There we go. You have to see my huge face. I don't really know why, but we're going to play it that way. We're going to talk about an article I wrote yesterday. A lot of you have asked, and because I'm a man of the people, despite the fact that I get made fun of for liking caviar and having a fancy house and all this kind of thing, I'm a man of the people. And for those people that don't know my story, I started with nothing. I went to college, got a bachelor's degree, got a master's degree, had nothing to do with this field. I worked my way up from working free to part-time, like $200, $500, $1,000, $4,000 to a full-time gig. So I have earned every single thing I've gotten in this industry. I am a man of the people. I'm you. I started out at the very bottom and hopefully kind of worked my way up here to the sort of the top. I don't know. But one of the things that, being a man of the person and something I talk about here on the show all the time, and I mentioned in articles and in the Discord, is I'm here to help you win and have success. And one thing I have heard is even though on a daily basis on this show and on a daily basis in the articles over at fantasyguru.com, I say, I like this guy, I don't like this guy, I believe in this guy, I don't believe in this guy. People were saying, Ray, are you going to do like a buy-sell article? It's kind of the mid-season point. I said, okay. So that's what I did yesterday. So we'll talk about the top 150 players, buy or sell. This is exactly what you were asking for. We'll talk about it in a second. I will talk about Eddie Rosario, Wyatt Langford, then a lot of pitching. Chris Sale, DJ Herz, Christian Scott, Paul Sewald, who we gave props to and then proceeded to crap the bed right after we gave him props here on the show. Chris Paddack, Andrew Abbott, Gavin Williams, Miles Mikolas. We'll talk a little bit about injuries, Parker Meadows, Stuart Fairchild, and Mike Trout on the show. And again, you can see everything there on the screen as well to listen, sign up, all those kind of good things with us over at fantasyguru.com. Okay, so let's talk about it. There's an article over at fantasyguru.com right now. It's in the Rays Rambling section. It's something that hopefully you all get a chance to read because it is, again, what you all asked me for. Very simply put, Rays Ramblings, buy or sell. And as you can see there, here are the rules that I went, and I wanted to discuss it a little bit in more detail here because it's always easier that way, right? You can say a lot more than I didn't want to write a 10,000 word article intro to this thing. There are these calls are for redraft leagues only. If you're in a Dynasty Keeper League, this stuff has no impact whatsoever. So if you're telling me, Ray, I'm in a Dynasty, no, just for a 2024 league, number one. Number two, your league setup matters. And I talk about this all the time, not to be obnoxious or whatever. I find myself spending, a third of my time answering questions, asking people to give me the information because I want to give you all of you the right answers. I need to know, is it head-to-head? Is it roto? Do you have 5 outfielders or 3? Do you start 5 pitchers, 6, 7, 8, 9? Do you have corner infield, middle infield? Do you have 6 bench spots? Do you have 3 bench spots? What's the setup? All of that matters. And when you're doing an exercise like we're doing here, that information, the answers are different if you're in a 10-team head-to-head than a 15-team roto league. I think we all know that, right? My goal is to try to service the middle. And by servicing the middle, I help the most people. But to be fair, that does leave people on the edges kind of, struggling a little bit. Now, whether you're in a 10-team, 12-team, 15-team, 18-team, 5-team, if you have Shohei Ohtani, you're keeping Shohei Ohtani. So, there's a limit to that. But again, I try to play the middle. And normally what that means, I'm thinking 12-team league with a 5 or 6 team bench. That's kind of where I'm at. I try to factor in a lot more head-to-head than roto, even though I greatly prefer roto for all the reasons we've discussed forever. I know a lot of you are in head-to-head leagues. So I try to do a 12-team league. And I know a lot of you are in 8 or 10. I know some of you are in larger 14, 15, but I try to service 10. So that's kind of where we're at here. And as I noted here in the breakdown for the article over at fantasyguru.com, we're painting with broad strokes. That's all I can do with an article like this. Number 3, I'm assuming, it says we, but we're writing in third person. I'm writing myself. We assume that you'll be able to discern what we mean with the categorization we list for players. Simply put, buy and sell, we know what that means. When you buy, these are the players that we expect to see more production from in the second half, or at worst case, no worse levels. Sell, these are the players that are likely to see their second half effort result in lower levels of production than the first. And there's more detail there. But, the bottom line with buying and selling is, again, I'm trying to answer your specific questions. I'm trying to do it in a snapshot way. I'm looking at the top 150 players in this, according to the ESPN Player Rater. The ESPN Play Rater has some issues. People have written about that. You can find articles all over the place about it. But the ESPN Play Rater is a free resource everyone can access. I'm looking at the top 150 players for this exercise. In so doing, I'm designating players of buy or sell. If you're in a 10-team league or a 15-team league, again, you have to use your own noggin here a little bit, because there is a difference. If you're in a 5 outfielder league and it's a 15-team, that's 75 starting outfielders, right? If you're in a 10-team league starting 3, it's 30. What do you do with Cedric Mullins? Well, in the 15-team 5 outfield league, of course you hold on to Cedric Mullins. In the 10-team league with 3 outfielders starting, do you hold on to Cedric Mullins? Probably not, right? So you have to factor that in. So the buy or sell is really, and again, I encourage everyone, if you have a specific question about a player, hit me up in Discord. You can try on Twitter X at the Ray Flowers. I'm on Threads. I'm on Instagram at the Ray Flowers. You can try on Twitter. I try to really gear a lot of this, though, obviously, to Discord, because that's where I'm looking at all day. If you have specific questions, well, Ray, you say buy or sell. Here's my scenario. And again, I'm basically asking you to tell me what your scenario is, because I'm saying at the top here, your setup matters. I dove in and tried to give a snapshot view of what to do with the player. And so what I did is I took those top 150 players on the player profile over at Fantasy Guru, at the player profile at ESPN, copied it all, made a chart. And by the way, if you're looking at the article, if you click on the chart, it'll expand it. So if it looks a little small, Ray, I can't read that. Just click on the JPEG and it'll expand it, take up the whole screen. I looked at all those 150 players and I said, simply put, do you want to buy or sell? So as an example here, let's look at the top 5 guys. Shohei Ohtani, buy. Bobby Witt, buy. Aaron Judge, sell. Gunnar Henderson, buy. Elly De La Cruz, buy. Now, I could have just said buy. Everyone in the top 10 is probably a buy, right? Let's be honest about that. Ray, why would you say sell Aaron Judge? For following reasons. 1, he's Aaron Judge, and the return you would get for Aaron Judge is huge. 2, he's a Yankee, and a lot of people think there's 3 teams in baseball, and the Yankees are one of them, so the return is even larger. 3, his performance to date has been spectacular. Okay. 4, and here's the real reason. He's playing every day right now. How long does that continue? As I have said numerous times, he's played 145 games in 2 of the last 3 years. Those are the only times in 6 years he's hit those numbers. He has seasons of 112 games, 102 games, 106 games last year. He played 28 of 60 games in 2020. And I think that if that had been a 160-game season, he probably would have played about 60. He would have missed 100 games that year. He was all kinds of beat up. So there are huge health concerns with Aaron Judge. And that's why I stopped short of saying he was a top 5 guy at the start of the season. Same reason. I haven't changed that point of view. To date, if you drafted Aaron Judge, you've hit the proverbial home run. And frankly, with another month of action, if you were to play another month and then miss the last 2 months, you're still a huge win. Dude's got 32 home runs, 83 RBIs right now, right? It's hitting 300. It's got an OPS of 1,100. To me, the concerns about his ability to stay on the field are valid enough, and the return will be significant enough that I would consider trading him. He's the only guy in the top 5 that I would do that. In fact, he's the only guy in the top 10 that I have listed as a sell. Again, you're not giving Aaron Judge away. You're not selling him for 90 cents on the dollar. You're trying to maximize Aaron Judge. You're trying to get 3 pieces back. You're trying to get that starting pitcher and that outfielder. You know what I mean? You're getting bangers for him. We're not giving away, and that's something else to point out that's listed there in the article. When I say sell a player, we're not panicking in the streets. If a guy's a top 150 player, right, we're not panicking in the streets. If he's a top 250 player, And to note, for those people that haven't read the article yet, when I say player, I mean player. This is not pitching. This is just players, fielders, players. Then we're talking about the top 150. Because in the top 150, he's been an effective player that's been utilized by most people on a daily basis. So we're not giving those guys away for 60 cents on the dollar merely because I say sell, number 1. Number 2, they wouldn't be in the top 150 if they were that terrible. Let's be honest, right? They wouldn't be there. They'd be guy 268 or something like that. So again, you have to use some level of discernment with these players. And if you have any particular questions about players, again, hit me up in the Discord over at fantasyguru.com. But this is what you all wanted. This is what you asked for. This is, Ray, I need an article like this. Boom, there it is. Remember, click on the JPEGs. It will expand the entire screen so you can read everything. Got the top 150 players listed from that player profile. It includes their team name, their positions, all that kind of good stuff. And then a very simple buy or sell. And then we're off to the races. So hopefully some of you will find usefulness in that. All right, let's talk about some of the players now. Eddie Rosario, who has produced better under the radar numbers than his overall production has suggested. His overall production's been terrible. But if you look underneath the covers, under the hood, I guess is a better way to say it. Don't look under the covers, guys. Well, maybe depending on who's next to you, maybe you want to look under the covers. Rosario has been better than it appears. End of the day, it hasn't happened. So I'm not sugarcoating this, but StatCast data, the batted ball data is better than the production has suggested. So what happens with Eddie Rosario? He gets, blah, blah, blah. No one cares about Eddie Rosario and we're moving on and everything like that. Well, the Braves say, we'll take him again. I mean, he was pretty good for us, like really good for us and kind of good in the playoffs for us. So they took him back. So he was promoted from AAA yesterday. It seems like once at least Michael Herz gets back from his injury, his lower body injury, that we could end up in this scenario where Duvall and Rosario are in a platoon with Duvall hitting lefties and Rosario hitting righties. That could be very effective for the Braves. It could be very effective in the fantasy space too. Remember, Rosario is somebody that, he's got 250-20 in him all over the place. The batted ball data is much better again than the surface numbers suggest. The Braves are obviously a winning organization. It's somewhere he's been in, was obviously comfortable. It's a lineup that once these pieces all start going together can be a banging offense. Eddie Rosario, for me, in 15-team leagues, I have him in, it was either Labor or FSG. Let's say it's Labor offhand. I have him. I'm holding him. I almost dropped him last week when you were hearing, they're going to let him go. But I thought, well, let's pull back and see where he ends up. He ended up with the Braves. I'm holding. In a 10-team league, we're not making a move. But he should go on a watch list. Because all it would take is a couple nice games for people to remember how good and effective he can be, especially now that he's back with the Braves. Wyatt Langford hit cleanup yesterday. The Rangers made a move. Hold on one moment. Made a move and dropped down Adolis Garcia to 5th in the order, I believe. I don't think this is an order change that's going to stick. But it's just a further continuation of the team's confidence in Wyatt Langford. He had a 2-run home run. He also had a double on Monday. His last 19 games, he now has 18 RBIs. He's got 4 home runs in those 19 games. He's hitting 366. And in those 19 games, his OPS has gone up 140 points. It's up to 752. And as we've discussed here on the show previously, I think it was last week, we talked about Langford. He's finally found his footing, and he's really good. And the first couple of months were performance-wise a mess, health-wise a mess. But this is the Wyatt Langford that was overdrafted, in my opinion, for the reasons that we saw play out, right? Even as great as he will be and as good as he's doing right now, he's overdrafted. But he's got the eye of the tiger right now. And he's got the look of a guy that second half could be doing some serious damage for the Rangers. And again, he's already been doing that for the last 3 weeks. So I don't think he sticks in the 4th spot, whether he's hitting 4th or 5th, it doesn't really matter, really. Once the Rangers get going here offensively, once Adolis Garcia starts hitting, once Marcus Semien starts hitting again, you know about the Rangers. This one was annoying to me, and I just want to share it because I write the cash game breakdown over at fantasyguru.com, and we have Chris Sales set up. Chris Sales going to start yesterday. A couple hours before the first pitch, they say, nah, bro, we're going to move Chris Sale back to Tuesday. Totally fine, totally healthy. We're just going to reorder the pitching staff. Bryce Elder ended up pitching. Are any of you besides me super tired of this? Today we got issues with the weather. There's issues with the Kansas City St. Louis game. There's issues with the White Sox Twins game. It's, maybe it's less of a bother in the seasonal setting, but I just want to share, just being honest with you. I'm getting really frustrated with this because it's like I put all this energy and effort into creating work product for all of you to have success, whether you're on the betting market or the DFS market or even the seasonal market. And all these outside factors are messing things up. Guys get hurt all the time, and that sucks. And unfortunately, we got to deal with that, right? And I'm trying to make peace with that because that's just what it is. When you start dealing the weather, I know this is a broken record, Ray. I'm looking outside. It's 72 degrees and sunny here in California. Put a dome on your stadium if you're not in a place where it's 72 degrees all summer. So the weather's one thing, but what the Braves did, this is, and they said, again, Sale's supposed to pitch today. There's no concern. They were just lining him up differently. I read something that suggested that he'll now be lined up to start on Sunday for his second start this week, which would preclude him from pitching in the All-Star game. And the article or the blurb suggested that was a good thing because that's probably what the Braves want. It's like, I don't know. Do you really want your guy not going to the All-Star game to perform? I don't know. But the bottom line is he was taken out yesterday and put in there today. I don't know. I mean, it's just frustrating to me. I don't know. Any of you care, you can leave a comment for me in the chat room. This is a demotion here. And I saw some blurbs about this too, thinking that, I don't think people understand. Some of the people writing blurbs sometimes I don't think get the situation directly. They got to pull their head out a little bit and look a little bit more broad scheme than just down the line. Johan Adon was promoted by the Nationals. DJ Herz was sent to AAA, and people were pissed. People were panicking. People were ticked off. Okay. Herz was being demoted. Why? Is it performance related? Absolutely not. 100% no. And I was even, did some research on this, and here's Herz himself. These are quotes from him. Quote, "I only threw 112 innings last year, so I need a little rest. That's kind of what they told me. Just take some time to get some rest, and then hopefully we'll be back up here." Unquote. So the team did exactly what we should expect a lot of teams to do here around the All-Star break, and that is to demote players that don't, especially pitchers, demote them when there's no reason to demote them, to skip a start. When they make a start, like if you make a start on Wednesday, you're not going to pitch again this week. Let's demote the guy to AAA. Let's call up a reliever to help our bullpen out. So we'll probably see some young guys deal with this now. It's roster manipulation as much as anything, and not in a negative way. This is how teams handle the rosters. Herz has not been demoted because he stinks. He will be back at some point, but understand, again, he admitted it himself. He only threw 112 innings last year. Let's get Herz up here. Let's see what he's got. And this is something that's that running theme that we've talked about over and over and over again this year. You're probably tired of hearing me talk about it. He's up to 77 innings right now. So he can't, would they let him throw 150? Maybe. He said he threw 112 innings last year. His math is wrong, or he's counting something that isn't official. Because if I look at his 2023 numbers, he threw 59 innings at AA. He threw 35 innings at AAA. My quick math tells me that's 95, just under 95 innings. So I don't know where he got 112. 95 is what I'm seeing. Maybe the team, again, counts things differently. Okay. But I'm seeing 95 innings. And again, he's at 77 right now. So Herz should be back in the second half, early in the second half. I don't know if that's the first time through the rotation. I don't know if they give him a month kind of, they pull Yuri Perez from last year where they kind of send him down to the minors for a month and he's throwing 2 innings one night and 3 innings another. I don't know what they do here, but he'll be back at some point. He's been effective. He's got, more than a strikeout an inning. He does have a 1.4 whip and a 5.2 ERA, so he's not forcing the issue, if you will, though he's had some monster performances, of course. Christian Scott was promoted by the Mets. He's another guy that's going to run up against a workload issue for the team. But right now, he allowed 2 runs in 5 2/3 innings against the Pirates, just a hit and a walk. One of the hit was a home run by O'Neal Cruz. Scott has allowed 2 or fewer runs in 4 of his 7 starts, and no more than 4 runs in any of the starts. So he's pitched very effectively. He's come up and really displayed the control. He's got the stuff, right, that's good enough, and showed the control that we all know he possesses at the major league level. And he's had lots of success. And he will continue to have lots of success for the Mets until his innings run out. And, again, will this be a scenario where they back off, they bullpen him, they send him down? It's moving here. The Mets suddenly, with their strong play of late, have playoff aspirations. So I think the calculus is changing here with their team's spot in the standings improving. But Scott is another guy to monitor. He should be effective the rest of the way when given the opportunity. And we saw that again yesterday. Now, Paul Sewald, I mentioned this earlier today. Paul Sewald, I said, hey, look, no one's talking about Paul Sewald. He's killing it. He's not giving up base hits, and his ERA is, 0.5 and all this kind of stuff. And then what's happened? 3 straight blown saves. Because this is how it goes. He's still the closer for the Diamondbacks. He's still the guy for the Diamondbacks. There's no panic with the Diamondbacks. I had an interesting back and forth yesterday with a user over at fantasyguru.com. And I just wanted to carry that conversation on here for a brief moment here on the show. And the user was in a head-to-head league. I think it was a head-to-head league. Even if it's not a head-to-head league, let's just say the user was in a scenario where it was a shallower league and there were available closers on the waiver wire. And, there was Clay Holmes, there was Johan Duran, there was Alexis Diaz, there was Paul Sewald. Like, we're trying to figure out which of these guys to roster and this and that kind of thing. Number one, remember that even though it's not just 30 closers, right? Every team has one guy. No, that's not how it goes. There are more guys that get consistent saves than 30. There are some teams where you don't want the closer. Do you want Michael Kopech on your team? Does he do anything for you? No. Do you want Griffin Jacks, who's not the closer for the Twins, but does a lot for you? Yeah. So again, I would say there's 40 to 45 relievers that have some level of consistency with the save. And that's me, including the guys that are going to get 11 saves this year, right? So it's a really low bar. But bottom line is there's a finite number of these. Each team has at any one given time at least 5 guys in a starting rotation. So at any one point in time, there's 150 starting pitchers. And we know that number, some teams use 6-man. So now we're at 170 starting pitchers. Every guy gets hurt. Now we're at 310 starting pitchers, right? There's always starting pitchers. There's only 40 to 50 relievers that get saves. So it's a very important commodity to hold on to, number one. Number two, these guys, again, 30 saves in 26 weeks. And 30 saves is the benchmark we're all shooting for, right? I mean, really, we're shooting for 20 in a lot of scenarios, but 30 is what we're shooting for. 30 saves in 26 weeks is 1.16 a week. It's barely one a week, okay? There will be periods of time where your closer goes 2 weeks with no saves, then gets 4 saves in the next 14 days. Just how it goes. Because, again, the save depends upon a whole bunch of stuff, the manager's decision, how your offense is done, how your pitching is done, how your defense is performed. It's the whole game, right? So there's no consistency there. Third, remember that, you can't time the market. That's the bottom line with the relievers. You can't time the market. You don't know when they're going to get the save or when they're not going to get the save. You can look at the upcoming schedule and say, they're playing 7 games. This guy's playing 6. And look at these opponents. These are weaker opponents, so there's a better chance of victory. Look at where the starting rotation is at. Okay, we can do all those kind of things to help us. But at the end of the day, we can't predict when the save is going to occur. And we can't predict when the blown save is going to occur. And the user was having a problem. They were saying that basically they're like, whether it's a blown save or a save, it's basically equaling out a 0 each week, right? And it's like, well, and I suggested the following, that you can't jump around from closer to closer. You can't try to time it. No closer is going to stay in the closing role if they're going to get 12 saves and 12 blown saves. Not happening, right? That's not happening. So if you're talking about, the last month or whatever, I'm basically breaking even with saves, it's because you're jumping from reliever to reliever. I would caution people against that. Just like I talk about with, players, we need to show a consistency with our decision-making. And the consistency with the decision-making is pick a guy and stick with it. Like Alexis Diaz, just go with it. It's not good. It's not clean. It's ugly at times. Yeah, just go with it. If you need saves, you just got to ride it out. Remember, it's a finite group of guys that work the ninth inning. Chris Paddack returned yesterday for the Twins, going back to the starting rotation. And, Paddack is one of these players that is very interesting because he's really a streaming option in mixed leagues. And, we've talked about him a lot here on the show. I did that big player profile on him at the start of the season over at fantasyguru.com. Right now, his ERA is 5.2, and he's coming back off injury. He allowed 2 runs in 5 innings yesterday against the White Sox, so a solid effort. His ERA is 5.2, and you're like, His xFIP is a full run below that. And, if his ERA was 4.2 instead of 5.2, I think a lot of people would look at him differently. He's not a big strikeout guy. There are times where he can be beat by the long ball. He really is kind of a matchup-based guy. He's facing the Giants next time out. I just wanted to, give a tip to the cap that, Paddack is not the worst streaming option in the world. And, pitching in San Francisco is not the worst place to pitch either. It's usually fair, at worst case, fair to the pitcher, if not tilting toward the pitcher, depending on the time of year and how the team is operating, all that kind of stuff. He's in play for this next start against the Giants. He's in play for that. So, don't get excited about Chris Paddack. I think he's basically performed up to expectations, or at least my expectations. And if you dig in a little bit, there's some reason to be a little more interested than the surface numbers tell you without getting excited. Andrew Abbott. Andrew Abbott's 7 shutout innings against the Rockies yesterday. The Rockies are no good. They're just not, especially on the road. They just don't hit. We talked about Tovar the other day, 6 for 50 or whatever he was. Had a constant back and forth. Had another discussion this morning about Nolan Jones in the Discord over at fantasyguru.com. They're in a bad spot offensively, especially when they're not in Colorado. So it's not surprising Andrew Abbott had success, but he went out there and, shutout innings of 7. There it was. And, I think with him, and I had a discussion with him about somebody because they were curious as to the rankings we had on Andrew Abbott and the released updated rankings over at fantasyguru.com the first of every month. So July 1st, we did that. And Ray, why isn't he ranked higher? I mean, he's doing really well. He is doing really well. He's done great, actually. He's got 9 victories and a 3.1 ERA with the 1.17 whip. The negative, he's got a 1.4 home run rate this season and for his career per 9 innings, which is not a good number. The fly ball rate of 51% for his career means that if his home run to fly ball ratio rises at all, right now it's about 11%. If it rises 3 percentage points, which is totally within the realm, 4 or 5 percentage points, totally in the norm, that 1.4 per 9 becomes 1.8 per 9. Then we start getting into the danger zone, like real danger zone. Next with him, with the concern is his left on base percentage is 86%. There are 2, maybe 3 guys a year that finish at 80%. On the rarest of the rare occasions, someone could at 85%, but it doesn't happen. Okay. And he's at 86% right now. League average is about 70, 71%, depends, let's call it 71%. And for his career, he's at 83%. So he has really been fortunate today. Then we look at his strikeout rate. Last year was 26%. This year it's 19%. So he went from above league average to way below league average. That doesn't work. His strikeout to walk ratio now is 2.16 with his K minus walk rate of 10.4%. These are way below league average numbers. So we have a guy that gives up a ton of fly balls. He doesn't miss bats. He walks more guys than he should. And he's been fortunate with the left on base percentage. He is a potential disaster waiting to happen. And if you look at this, remember his ERA is 3.1. His expected ERA is 3.5. His Sierra is 4.7. His xFIP is 4.8. So what those advanced measures say is that Andrew Abbott is basically really struggling to be league average. And I think, going through this quick review of who he is, we're kind of in that same spot. He's barely league average. The numbers don't look like it. Kind of the anti-Eddie Rosario, right? Rosario has been at least league average, doesn't look like it. Abbott's been league average, looks much better than that. Be cautious with Andrew Abbott. Plus, he's got the home ballpark in Cincinnati. It's not a good place to pitch for a fly ball pitcher. He's cruising for a bruising. An 8 spot, something like that, could definitely come down the pipe here with him sometime here in the second half. Gavin Williams returned. Now, Gavin Williams got a better outlook than Andrew Abbott if he can stay healthy. That's the obvious issue with Gavin Williams. And coming back from injury, 5 1/3 scoreless innings against the Tigers. Yippee-ki-yay. That was a strong effort. He gave up 4 hits, only walked 1 guy, struck out 5 batters. That was a much better effort than the first time that he was on the hill after returning from injuries. So now we've got 1 wonky effort and 1 really good effort from Gavin Williams. He threw 74 pitches in his first outing, got it up to 89 last time out. So we're at that 90 pitch zone for him now, which is great. We don't have to worry about him artificially being removed early because they're worried about workload. He's set to face the Tampa Bay Rays before the All-Star break. And we're in a point now where we can feel pretty good about Gavin Williams. Can he stay healthy? Right. At this point, he's got to prove that now. But that effort yesterday was the guy that was drafted before all the arm issues began this year. That effort yesterday was supported by his success in the second half last year. That effort yesterday is supported by the pedigree, the scouting profile. He can be an upper-end starting pitcher in this league. Yesterday, he was that guy. The first time out, he wasn't. If he looks sharp again against the Rays, I think we're cooking with gas, as they say. If Gavin Williams is waiver wired right now, I think it's very logical and smart for you to go grab him because I think that, again, the health piece, you're tired of me saying it, but if the health piece is there with Gavin Williams, he should be very successful on the hill for the Guardians. Miles Mikolas, 6 1/3 scoreless innings against the Nationals. And, he gave up 9 runs against the Reds in that one game, right? Let's pull up his chart here. So he gave up 9 runs, and did you have him active because I said, hey, he's pitching great? You probably did because I had him active. Ray, you're an idiot. Well, it was a terrible effort. But let's look at this. Here, let's look at every effort he has made since the 10th of May. 6 innings, 3 runs, 5 innings, 1 run, 6 innings, 3 runs, 6 innings, 3 runs, 6 innings, 2 runs, 7 shutout innings, 1 run and 6 in the third innings, 4 runs and 6 innings, 9 runs earned. I'm using earned runs. 9 earned runs and 4 in the third innings, the bombing. And then the last 2 times out, 12 in the third innings pitched, 2 runs. So for 2 months, he has gone quality start, quality start, quality start, quality start, quality. In those 2 outings, he gave up 14 runs in 10 innings. It was horrible. But the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 starts, it was quality start. So I think that it's a reminder that when we get beyond the elite level guys, we're going to see this from most pitchers, right? The strong efforts, the middle ground efforts, the weaker efforts. It's just how it goes. I think that in the case of Mikolas, unlike so many guys we talk about here on this show, there is zero workload concerns with him. As long as he is healthy, he is pitching. He's going to stick in this rotation for the Cardinals. For the majority of the last 2 months, he's been a must start. Now, he's not going to miss bats. There are still going to be rough outings from him. But, if you're in a league that values work, if you're in a points league, 6 innings each time out is important. 6 innings and 2 runs allowed each time is important. I mean, these are important numbers. And even if you include the beatdown that he took, or the 2 beatdowns he took in this effort, those last 11 starts that we discussed, his ERA is 3.88. That still works, right? So, yeah, it was horrible. Yeah, it was terrible. But he's rebounded the last 2 times against the Pirates and the Nationals, both on the road. Miles Mikolas is that guy, that streaming guy that kind of hangs around for a little bit longer than you anticipate. And again, he's been pitching pretty damn well for 2 months, or 3 months almost, minus the 2 starts. 3.88 ERA is not that bad. Nick Lodolo returns today for the Reds. Now, this is if the Reds and Rockies games happen. Right before the show started, I was looking at the reports, and there's all kinds of concern about the weather. We'll have to dig into this more as the day comes down. Maybe the game's even being canceled as we're talking here. I don't know. They were talking about what to do. He's got a blister issue that he's dealt with. He returns. He's been out since June 25th. It's always difficult to feel great about tossing a guy back out there immediately coming off the injured list. In his scenario, this is not an elbow issue. This is not a forearm issue. This is not a shoulder issue. This is a blister issue. Could he go out there and strike out 8 guys in 4 innings and the blister flares up again? Yeah, it could happen, right? If you have Lodolo, I don't have any issue with starting him today because, again, this is not really an injury. This is a blister issue. And we just talked about it earlier in the show right here. The Rockies are not a good team on the road. They're just not. They're not a dominant team. They're not an effective team. They're not a team to fear. And Nick Lodolo can strike fear into any opponent. So I would not have a problem starting Nick Lodolo today for the reasons that I just laid out. Let's talk about a couple injured guys here. Parker Meadows, who we talked about, he was indeed placed on the 10-day injured list with that right hamstring strain. We don't know how much longer than 10 days it's going to be for Parker Meadows, but it's going to be longer than 10 days. AJ Hinch kind of basically said that, not great. So let's say it's 4 weeks, as we talked about on Monday. Really tough because he did go down to the minors, did make a swing change, did produce very effectively down on the farm, did get called up, and then in a couple days back on the injured list. So at this point, it's tough to feel, even if you have IL spots and you're going to stash him and all that, which I would not be against doing. Because, again, he is a 2020 talent. It's starting to really look like one of those lost seasons that just happens. So, I have him in my Dynasty League. I'm holding on, of course. But I and you should have, I think, muted expectations in the second half of this year. Hopefully I'm wrong. But that's where I'm at right now. Another outfielder that was hurt, and this guy, is somebody that I turn to because of the fact that, I'm dealing with injuries. He replaced an injured guy in TJ Friedl. Similar skills offensively, similar-ish. Stuart Fairchild's been placed on the injured list, retroactive to July 7th, with a spine issue. When I hear spine, it could be a week. It could be 10 days, right? It could be. But when you hear spine, don't you think longer? And I do. Whether that's right or wrong, I do. Reese Hens was called up. He's going to see regular playing time right now because, again, TJ Friedl is out. I think the guy, though, that I'd be kind of interested in if I was looking to make another pivot would be Austin Slater. The Giants traded him to the Reds this week. Austin Slater is somebody who's got power speed. He's not a star. He's not a guy that really should be playing on a daily basis. He should be a platoon guy. He kills left-handed pitching. I don't think that there's a definitive answer as to what we should be really excited about here, in this outfield. And maybe you even hear me talking about Fairchild. I'll just pull up his numbers real quickly. Maybe you hear me talking about Fairchild and you're like, Ray, who gives a damn? We're not in a 15-team mixed league like you are where you're starting this guy. Stuart Fairchild, in 190 plate appearances, had 5 home runs and 11 steals. Give him 600 plate appearances, the full season of work. That's 1,530. It's not bad. And he also would have scored, 65 runs with 65 RBI. It's not bad as a fill-in, but he's no longer a fill-in. So the Reds will, who at the start of the season, we talked about this, seemingly having so many players that too many guys, right? It just all kind of crumbled in certain respects. They obviously had the scenario with CES, who they lost, Matt McClain, who they lost. Now they've got Friedel, Fairchild, Nick Martini on the injured list. Like, it's starting to get pretty aggressive here. But bottom line is the outfield probably will be Spencer Steer in left, Reese Hins in right, and center field would be Will Benson, disappointing. Really disappointing. The 26-year-old who we all know has tremendous talent. We all knew he had holes coming into this season. And, to be fair, if we look at his last 609 plate appearances at the start of last year, which again would be a full season of games, he's hitting 235 with 20 home runs and 30 steals. Like, we would all take that in every league. The problem is this year he's hitting 187. And his OPS this year is 642, which is 200 points lower than it was last year. So he'll continue to play every day, and hopefully he'll catch fire. He has the ability to have a massive 3 or 4 week run. Still searching for the consistency piece. And frankly, with a 40% strikeout rate, which is catastrophic, it's getting more and more difficult, barring a significant change, to get excited about Will Benson. Finally, an update on Mike Trout. Mike Trout took soft toss yesterday. He jogged on the outfield. Here's a quote. "I feel great. I feel fine, and I'm progressing the way I should be. It's good to get out there and start moving around instead of being in the weight room in the cage. It's all about the progression of running. I feel good hitting. I took 30 swings out there with no pain at all," unquote. End of the month, Trout should be back, which means he'll probably go back on the injury list in August. I'm being a dick there, but great start to the year. Was hitting home runs all over the place. I can't sit here and tell you can't hit 15 or 20 home runs in the second half of the season. I also don't know if he's going to play 15 or 20 games, and I just don't know. But he is progressing. We'll see. Maybe he'll be back on a ball field near you in 3 weeks. That would be great for him, the Angels, fantasy players, baseball, all of that. We as a community need Mike Trout on the field. It's just been something that's been more and more difficult to do here as time has gone on. All right, let's look at the Discord here. We're going to have a little bit of a shorter show today, or chat room, I guess I should say today, which is fine because I got a lot of work to do. By the way, if you missed it, my FSGA Champions League write-up is over at fantasyguru.com. That's a free article. Anyone can read that. That includes the link to the show that was here last week. You can find that on the YouTube page, youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. My 50-minute breakdown of the FSGA Champions League draft I did, a 14-team PPR setup. So that article, that free article, again, is over at the website, fantasyguru.com right now, if you want to check that out. I'm starting my running back PPR running back myth article, that article doesn't talk about Christian McCaffrey, doesn't talk about Alvin Kamara. It talks about the scat back types, right? The Antonio Gibsons, or in the old days, the Darren Sproles, these guys that we think, oh, they're going to help me because they catch a lot of passes. They don't help you as much as you think. So I'm starting that. That's like a decade-long research project that I'm updating right now on the football side of things. On the baseball side of things today, I'll have the cash game breakdown. I'll have some bets out later, and we'll keep it going here tomorrow at fantasyguru.com here on the show. Looking at those comments again, Tony C says, "Morning, Raymundo." Good morning, Tony C. And here we go. Nice cash game breakdown article yesterday. Win yesterday. Nice work, Ray. Yeah, thanks, Tony. I'm glad it worked. Yeah, it was pretty good. We had Andrew Abbott, despite my concerns about Andrew Abbott. That's the beauty of the DFS game. Andrew Abbott was the cash game breakdown pitcher. And he was one of the two. Chris Sale was the other one. And then when Chris Sale was removed from the start, we made the switch. And so whether you played FanDuel or DraftKings, we had Andrew Abbott as the pitcher. And again, 7 shutout innings. So that went very well. I'm glad you were able to have success using that, Tony. Let's see if we can keep it going today. Fingers crossed. I'll go and dig into it and hopefully make it a reality. John G asks the following, or says the following. "I made a huge trade in the league where you can keep players for 3 years. I got Soto. Oh, these are always interesting. Okay. I got Soto, no years left. Castillo, 1 year left. For Skeens, 3 years left. And Robert, 2 years left. How did I do? Poorly. Sorry, John. Now, John says the following, and this is the balancing act. I'm in first and pushing for a title. Okay, so we're in first place and we're trying to win. And as they say, flags fly forever. Let's return now to the trade. On the surface, this is a bad trade because you get Soto for 3 months versus Robert for 2 years. You get Castillo for 1 year versus Skeens for 3 years. To me, with the way that Skeens has looked to date, making the All-Star game and the dominance and all the excitement, with the way he's looked with 3 years of control, I am surprised. I'm very surprised that the return you got was this. And you threw in Luis Robert, which, again, 2 years of control for a guy that's almost certain to get traded to a likely, I mean, how could it be worse? Likely better lineup than it is with the White Sox. That's a huge price to pay. I think in some scenarios, John, that Paul Skeens himself could have gotten you Soto and Castillo. I really think that. So I think this is a poor move. Does it help you right now? Is Juan Soto better than Luis Robert? Absolutely. Absolutely. Is Luis Robert terrible? No, but Soto's clearly the better player. Is there a significant difference between Castillo and Skeens? Well, if Skeens continues what we have seen, if Skeens doesn't have a pitch limit or a workload limit, it's hard to say he's not the guy over Castillo, but that's very close. Castillo, despite not putting up great numbers, he goes out and gives you 5 or 6 innings every time out and gives up 2 runs. Like he's like a metronome, right? He just does his thing. So I think the trade is a slight win for this year. I think it's a big loss long-term. Hopefully I'm wrong on this. But that you paid a full price. I hope you win because this is an all-in trade. And sometimes you got to make all-in trades. And, that's the nature of keeper leagues. That's the nature of dynasty leagues. And it's that decision that we all have to make. And frankly, I think too many people, just to say a point that I've mentioned many times, people pay too much for the future. Like too many people are in dynasty or keeper leagues, and all they do is it's Paul Skeens here, it's Evan Carter here, it's Wyatt Langford there. Let's just win, like John's trying to do. Let's just win this year. How about we get Juan Soto as one of the best hitters in baseball, and we get Luis Castillo, who's a borderline SP1. Let's just do that, right? So I applaud the effort. I hope I'm wrong, but I think it was a loser long term. And again, I'm not really surprised. I wonder, John, if you had floated Skeens, if you couldn't have got those 2 guys again on their own. I'm surprised it took Robert as well. If you had to add a second piece, a guy that had 1 year left or no years left, kind of evening things out here, I would have argued, well, look, I only get Castillo for 1 year. You're getting Skeens for 3. I'm getting Soto for none. I'm only going to give you a player back for none because you're still getting 2 extra years on me with Paul Skeens. That's what I would have argued. But thanks for asking the question, John. If you want to follow up, you can always hit us up in Discord over at fantasyguru.com. Remember, sign up for drafters.com. For those of you looking to do some best ball football, use that promo code ELITE for a 100% match of your deposit if you're a new client for drafters.com. If you're an existing drafters.com client, use the promo code ELITE10. That'll give you a 10% discount. Go to fantasyguru.com, sign up for the football package. Click on the subscribe tab in the top right, and we've got it all available right now. You can sign up for the seasonal package, the wagering package, the DFS package, all of the packages for football. If you want to get them all, just bundle them all together. If you want to become a VIP Platinum member and get everything for every sport we do, that's obviously available right now for you over at fantasyguru.com as well. As you know, as we're continuing to do here, every day we're continuing baseball. We're covering it at the website. We're going to continue to do it here on the show. I know football's everywhere. Jeff Mann's show is basically 95% football now. So if you need your football, check out the Elite Sports Show, which is 3 to 6 Monday through Friday on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. I'm on every Wednesday, so I'll be on tomorrow. Jeff's actually not going to be on the show tomorrow, so it'll be me and Ted Schuster. So we'll probably sneak in some baseball when Jeff's away. Shh, don't tell him. We'll sneak in some baseball on the show tomorrow. But that show is rocking and rolling. We got the huge article by Armando Marsal, who will be on the show tomorrow. The huge article that he was talking about last week that he and Ted Schuster do every year, talking about the offensive lines, breaking down the offensive lines, the movements, the additions, the subtractions that teams made, the setup, the style that teams use. Get overall grading for those of you that don't want to read the 15,000 words that are in the article. You can just look at the table. Everyone's graded, from an A down to an F. So that article is popping, and that's, again, something that's unique with our setup over at fantasyguru.com. We look at things in a non-traditional manner in some respects. And I think that non-traditional look sets us apart. And I also think it allows you to be in a position to have more success. Because frankly, if you're not thinking about coaching setups, coaching schemes, if you're not thinking about blocking in the offensive line, if you're not looking into that stuff, you're missing the boat. DK Metcalf, Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, Drake London. These guys just don't do the great things they do without help. And we focus a lot on Drake London and Kirk Cousins, right? We focus a lot on Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. We focus on the players that we use in the fantasy space. But those guys in the trench, those guys on the sidelines with the stupid pencil in the hat and the hat on backwards or whatever the hell they're doing, calling the plays, those matter a lot. And that's something that we will give you the tools to understand and the tools, therefore, to lead to success in 2024 in the draft guide over at fantasyguru.com. So check that out. I see a mention there in the chat room. Doug, thank you, Ray. You're welcome, Doug. Thanks. I always appreciate you being around and being involved as well. Tell a friend, folks. Spread the word here. Again, we're rocking and rolling every day. 12 o'clock Eastern time. That's noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific here on Fantasy Sports Daily, Monday through Friday. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll start our football talk. Again, 30 minutes into the show on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, which is 12:30 Eastern time, 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. We talk football. Tomorrow's Armando Masal. Thursday's Tyler Beaker. And Friday is Russell Clay. I'm Ray Flowers. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.